Hi there! Welcome back to the classroom. Let's put a little vacay in your day. Today's vacay Q&A comes from Marie in Opelika, Alabama. Marie says, "Hi, Miss Kears." "Hi, Marie. I'm having trouble sleeping, and I think it's because I'm stressed. During the day, I feel frazzled. I get angry easily, my head aches, and I just generally have a bad attitude. It's not really any one thing, I'm just overwhelmed with everything. And when I go to bed, I either can't go to sleep or I wake up at 3 a.m. worried about things that shouldn't even matter. Everything is a big deal at 3 a.m., no matter how trivial it seems in the clear light of day. What can I do to rest more and stress less?" Well, Marie, you are not alone. Most of us feel that way at one time or another. But there are some simple techniques that we can use to reduce that stress and diffuse that worry. And technique number 1 is to prune passive stress. And passive stress is a silent but very destructive form of stress caused by ignoring a problem in hopes that it will go away. But instead, it percolates quietly below the surface, adding to overwhelm and fueling frustration. Now, we can combat passive stress with 3 simple steps. The first step is to pay attention, to pull our head out of the sand and see what's going on around us. Then we have to plan ahead, to see these things coming down the pike and plan for them in advance. And then we have to put it on the schedule, because by actively scheduling it, it's no longer a passive stressor. It is now actively on our schedule, on our to-do list, and solely within our control. And one of the most everyday examples of passive stress that I can think of is fuel in the car. Now, we're going to say gas, but I understand that some cars run on diesel, others propane, others electric, but for our purposes, let's just say gas in the car. I simply mean fuel. So let's say, for instance, that you get in the car one morning and realize, "Ooh, I only have a quarter of a tank of gas. But that's okay, I can get to work." And then at the end of the day, you're tired and you just want to go home. And the next morning, you think again, "Ooh, the car's kind of low on gas, but I can get the kids to school. I can get to work." And then at the end of that day, you have an appointment that you cannot be late for. And so you jump in the car and you're just about to head that way, and oh, the car's out of gas. How did that happen? Well, you ignored it in hopes that it would go away, but it did not. It reared its head at the worst possible time. Now your tail is on fire. You can't do anything until you put gas in the car. Who lit your tail on fire? You did. You knew the car needed gas. If there's one thing in the world we can count on, it's that cars need fuel. So when you see that there's less than a quarter of a tank of fuel in the car, it's time to take care of that. In fact, at the half a tank mark, it would probably be a good idea. And in my own personal case, that was my Sunday ritual for years. On Sunday afternoons, I would go to the grocery store and I would stop and put gas in the car. Because I had 2 small children at home, and there were 2 things that I could absolutely count on during the week. Kids get hungry, cars need gas. So every Sunday afternoon, that was my ritual. I went to the grocery store and I put gas in the car. And then, although many other things might go wrong during the week, those were 2 things that I didn't generally have to think about again, or if I did, at least not until later in the week. So that's just a very simple example of a passive stressor that if you pay attention, plan ahead, and put it on the schedule, it does not have to cause you so much stress. And technique number 2 is to weed out worry. Now, if you're old enough to remember Crocodile Dundee, he actually said it best when he said, "Worry is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it gets you nowhere." And he is absolutely right. Worry feeds indecision, and indecision feeds worry. And pretty soon we are just biting our nails, paralyzed by indecision and worry. But there's an antidote to worry, and that's action. Action is actually the antidote. So if you're worried about something that you can do something about, then by all means, do something about it. But if you're worried about something that is totally beyond your control, say for instance a political issue or an environmental problem that you just don't have the resources to tackle, then do something else, because action is the antidote to worry. For instance, if you have a teenage son and you're worried that he's going to fail his science test, should you just sit on the couch and bite your nails? No. Bring him to the kitchen table, prepare some flashcards, and get him ready for that test, because that is something that you can proactively do something about. However, if you're worried about a situation that is totally beyond your control, then do something else. Go for a run or a walk. Work in the yard. Get together with a friend. Do something. And if that doesn't work, do something else, because action is the antidote to worry. And technique number 3 is to fumigate fear. And while fear is certainly a reaction to stress, it is also energy in its very purest form. Fear is pure adrenaline. And how we experience that adrenaline is a simple matter of translation. We translate it as either fear or excitement. But whether you're feeling fear or excitement, the physical symptoms on the body are exactly the same. Our heart pounds, our palms get sweaty, our blood races. It's simply a matter of how we translate those physical symptoms as to whether we experience fear or excitement. For example, some people are absolutely terrified of public speaking, while others just embrace it. And the truth is, they're all feeling the exact same thing. They all have butterflies in their stomach and a racing heart and sweaty palms and maybe a dry mouth. The physical symptoms are exactly the same. But some people are interpreting that as excitement and adrenaline and energy, while others are simply interpreting it as fear. But it's the exact same physical response. Now, it's a lesser known fact that laziness is a passive reaction to fear. Laziness is simply an internal passive reaction to fear that traps us on the couch, paralyzed with dread and indecision. But instead of just submitting to that fear, try this 3-step process to move past the fear. So the first thing we have to do is honor that emotion. Fear is a very real emotion, and it is coming from somewhere. However, the trigger isn't usually the source. So spend a few minutes. If you enjoy journaling, that's a great way to analyze it. If you meditate, whatever it is that you do to process information, take a few moments and analyze that fear, not to determine the trigger, but to determine the source. What is really making you afraid? Once you've determined the source of that fear, then we have to breathe through it. And the biggest thing about breathing that no one ever talks about is before you can take a deep breath in, you have to breathe out. Because very often when we're dealing with fear and frustration and anxiety, we forget to breathe. We hold our breath. And then someone says, you need to just take a deep breath, and you go, I can't breathe. Well, the reason for that is because you're holding your breath. You're holding onto one breath so tightly you can't let go to get another. So the first step in the breathing process is to breathe out, to let go. So I suggest breathe out to a count of 4 and then go 2 more just to make sure you get it all the way out. And then you can take that fresh, cleansing breath in that you probably need so badly. And then repeat as needed. But the trick to breathing is to breathe out first, because when you're holding your breath, you can't take a deep breath in. You have to let go of one to get another. And once you've identified the source of your fear, got your breathing under control, it is time to get moving, because just like worry, action is the antidote to fear. If you just let fear consume you, again, you end up on the couch filled with indecision and dread. However, if you determine the source of that fear, breathe your way out of it, and then get moving Whether you're exercising or working in the yard or just taking the dogs for a walk, any kind of action will help dissipate that fear. So, step 1, identify the source. Step 2, breathe through it. Step 3, take action. Get moving. And technique number 4 is to exterminate anger. And anger is a much more active reaction to stress. So when we're angry, we have a choice to make. We can either use that anger as fuel for our fire and motivation to help us accomplish the impossible, or we can internalize it and let it become a destructive force both in our lives and the lives of those that we love. The choice is completely ours. So let's use an example of my hypothetical neighbor. If I said to my neighbor, I think I'm going to grow some prize-winning roses, and she said to me, roses? Are you kidding? You can't grow roses. You can't even grow weeds. Now, I can do one of two things. I can either let what she said motivate me so that I do my research and I take soil samples and I study hydration and I grow the very best roses in town, or I can internalize what she said and let it demoralize and depress me. Because that's what depression is anger turned inwards. So when angry, remember, we have a choice to make. Are we going to let it be fuel for our fire, or are we going to let it demoralize and depress us? The choice is totally ours. Now, healthy outlets for anger range from exercise to education. As long as you are bringing about a positive change in your life or the lives of others, then that is a healthy response to anger. It simply has to be something that provides a safe and productive channel for that anger to flow through instead of internalizing it and causing us to implode and self-destruct. So the next time your heart's pounding and your blood is boiling, grab your running shoes and go for a run. Grab a pen and write a letter to the editor. Join a cause and make a change. Or grab a shovel and go dig in the garden. Do something. And if that doesn't work, do something else. While stress is unavoidable, it does not have to control our lives, dictate our emotions, or rob us of rest. By recognizing the symptoms and triggers, we can act instead of react and turn it into a source of energy and motivation to accomplish our goals, nourish our bodies, and rest at the end of the day. Okay, Marie, I hope this helps. Let me know in the comment box below. And if you have any further questions or comments, just leave them there and I will come back to you with a comment or another video. Okay, see you soon.